Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is December 8th, 2022. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. No, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here with Bob Smokey Miles. How in the heck are you, Bob? Where are you calling from?
From the city of Revelation, Mar Vista, California.
Yeah, women are from Venice, men are from Mar Vista.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay. First question, Smokey, what's the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being, love.
Yeah. It's the answer I get the most. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
The cell phone.
Now, there's a practical human. Why do you think why do you think humans collect or gather information?
They're curious.
Is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
Innate.
Do thoughts create emotions?
Sometimes, and sometimes emotions create thoughts.
Yeah. Fill in the blank, Smokey. I don't know what I think until I
Thunk it.
thunk at THUNK.
Right.
That is a great word. Where'd you get that word?
From my thunks.
Until I thunk it. That is a great word. Can humans think without language?
Yes.
Chomsky says a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
You mime.
That is good, dude. We're having a good time. Your observations of humans in general. I know it's both. It depends. In general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I think the majority is more feeling beings.
Yeah. It's two questions from Alan Turing, 1950s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
I couldn't answer that. I don't know what a soul is exactly.
That's good. Now, see, you get it. You don't have, just because I ask a question doesn't mean you have to answer it. And I'm after your guess, your intuition. So I'm glad you said that. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
Machines can do processes, but I don't think they can think in the same way that humans do yet, unless I'm missing some advanced machinery.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Oh, I pursue results.
That is good. So you get it. Just because I say these questions a certain way doesn't mean you can and give you two choices. You go, so what is results in relation to happiness and meaning? You pursue results. Is it like happiness results or meaning results? How would you describe the results you're pursuing?
They end up as either a song, a poem, a picture, a piece of work of some form, drama or something. And if they satisfy me to some extent, that gives me some happiness. And what was the other word?
Um,
Satisfaction.
no, the two words I gave were happiness or meaning.
Meaning. You know, every once in a while, there's a little meaning in the results that surprises me.
It's good. Yeah, McLuhan said in 57, it's misleading to suppose there's any difference between education and entertainment. It's always been true, whatever pleases teaches more effectively. So do you think that's true? Whatever pleases teaches more effectively, or not? If it's true, just any thoughts on that? Whatever pleases teaches more effectively.
I definitely believe that. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, teachers are kind of entertainers in a way, and they slip in some information. And if they're better entertainers, more information slips in.
Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we creating it?
I think we're like kind of what do they call colanders? You know, the information is, I don't know where it comes from. I mean, words, pictures, sounds, they just pop in to the
So
brain.
that's yeah, you're saying that comes from somewhere else, and we're like the sifter, colander, we're the strainer. It strains through us, or
Something like that. But it may come from us, but then again, it may come from an outside
right.
source that we don't know about.
Yeah, it's good. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, speed of thought.
You're right, man. There's no right or wrong answers, Smokey, but that one you got right.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you too much. Do I win a prize here?
Oh yeah, man. You get a free refrigerator magnet for my book. So I'll send it to you COD and in the mail.
Nice.
Audre Lorde, the poet, said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne Rayner responded and said, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
Dynamite.
Boy, this is, I've interviewed 5,000 people in 50 years. I like people like you where we have a really good time. Dynamite. What new toy do you suggest?
A new toy? Do I suggest for who?
Well, just again, you put it in the context you want for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Legos.
What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Ooh. I when I go to bed, that I won't wake up.
Oh, there you go.
But I try not to think about it too much.
Yeah.
No.
What do you do with your worry?
I try to make it go away so I can get a night's sleep.
Yeah.
I like to sleep.
Why are most artists liberal?
Maybe because they're intelligent.
Ah, that's good. So, McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are the antenna of the race, sort of like radar, so that the artists broadcast and detect the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might be able to cope with what we don't like about the inventions. So Smokey, I asked you the question McLuhan probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Oh, people have a blind spots. They just they cannot or will not see what is presented to them all the time.
Yeah.
Or some of the time,
But
because
yeah,
they have their worldview set, and they don't want to upset it, and
yeah,
some outside or new information might upset that.
yeah. Do artists have moral obligation? And when I say artists, I mean poets, musicians, all the type. So do artists have moral obligation?
Yeah, I think everybody has moral obligation, but it's. I mean, yeah, I think they do. Sure, sure.
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I ain't afraid of nothing.
Go get them, dude. Okay. What can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Oh, it's funny you say that. Because early memory just popped into my mind. I
Wow.
remember I must have been very 2 or 3 years old, and there was a friend of my mother's or family or something that held me, and she had very large breasts, and I remember rubbing against them and going, "I like this."
That's a good memory, man. I love that.
Well,
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
oh, that's a good point. No, I think it's a blessing. I think it's good to know where you've been, remember
Yeah.
where you've been. Yeah. Even if it's painful.
Yeah. That's right. I agree. Smokey, tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
Hmm. Well, in my family, I would say there were several people. My dad, my grandfather, my mom.
Okay, let's go to
Uh,
those three: dad, mom, and grandfather. Just briefly, what did you get from each one?
well, I think my dad was a good guy, a great guy, and was a good was a good father, and he was a scientist. So the part of my mind that has a scientific bent, that I don't like to just believe anything willy-nilly, but I like to verify, the scientist. My grandfather was had a tremendous heart, and was a very loving man, and it was like my best friend. And my mom always surprised me. And thank God she's still going at 97. She's a real survivor.
Wow. You think her longevity is more lifestyle choice or more DNA? I know it's both, but just your hunch, is it a little more which one?
I think it's luck. I mean, luck, attitude. I mean, she's got
Attitude, yeah, definitely.
attitude, yeah, and medicine. They've kept her going.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really
But
have.
but
But
they do
she's
say, did her mom and dad live long too?
no,
They
no.
didn't?
Her mom. My grandmother died at 49, and my grandfather died at 65. Her parents. So
Wow.
she's been living all her life with the fear that it's going to be a short one.
But does
And
she have what's her life? I dear is her lifestyle choice, eating health food or whatever?
you know, no, she doesn't eat health food, but she does eat a lot of berries. And I've noticed strawberries, blackberries,
Oh,
blueberries.
that will keep you alive.
I'm following that tradition now. I'm like a squirrel. I like
That
to.
is,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that red the grapes, the red in grapes, that's why wine always live long, because that grape,
Oh,
it's true.
yeah. Grapes are good.
Okay. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Jewish.
Jewish or Jewish? Did you hear the
Oh,
new joke?
no.
Oh, this guy, he lied about there's some big political guy lied about his family was in the Holocaust. And when he said I was Jewish, he says, I meant I was Jewish. You get it? Like I was sort of Jewish ishiness. Just I would
I don't really get it.
okay, you know the word like he was it's like NESS or ISH. It's sort of you're sort of
Oh,
like
like that? Yeah.
you're sort of like that. Jewish means you were raised Jewish, but now there's a whole new way. You go, oh, I'm Jewish, like by osmosis. Susie always says I'm Jewish by osmosis because she hung out with a lot of New York Jews, but she wasn't.
Well, well,
Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, if you hanging out with Moses, even if it's osmosis, then you're a member of the tribe. Now,
osmosis. That is good. I was hanging out with osmosis. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
did you check out, or are you practicing Jewish?
Um, I identify that way. I'm not.
Yeah,
I lit the Hanukkah candles.
there you go. Do you
Yeah.
pray?
I have a hard time with that. I try to, and I'm not quite sure what it means. I mean, most people pray, oh my God, help me, save me,
Yeah,
get me through this situation. I think, you know, when the chips are down, or you care for somebody, you pray. I
yeah,
go through that motion, and I'm still not sure if I'm doing it right.
yeah. If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Uh, After I die, let's see. Uh, Welcome to heaven. Here's your new room, your new mansion. Here,
That's
have a have a Cadillac.
I have a cat.
I don't know. What's God gonna say? I think I wrote
That's
something about that, but
that's like the guy gets to hell and before he walks in, the devil's standing there and he can look past the devil and there's a row of Cadillacs. And the guy goes, "You have Cadillacs in hell?" And the devil goes, "That's all we got."
no roads to ride them on.
Yeah, no. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
I think it comes out to about the same thing.
Yeah,
If the force of evil uses them so much, then they become pretty darn evil.
yeah. But really, Smokey, the hidden question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? I set up with a few modern thinkers. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I think that's a little bit. I don't agree with that. I think you've got to acknowledge your enemy as an enemy, if that's your enemy. If someone, I mean, if somebody, why are they your enemy? They want to kill you. They want to steal from you. They want to beat you. Do something horrible. You got to acknowledge that. I mean, unless you can just like disappear into thin air.
But
Otherwise you have to conquer them.
Right. So you would say that the solution is to do what? How do you deal with an enemy? What's your philosophy?
It depends upon what kind of enemy it is. Like I said, I mean, if it's an enemy who just wants to, who wants to kill you, you're going to have to do something radical to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Which means kill them first.
Yeah.
If necessary. I mean, if it's someone who just wants to trip you up in some way, get a promotion over your shoulders or something for a job, you got to outsmart them or show the truth of what they're doing. I mean, it's a big question.
That's good. Outsmart or show the truth. So, Nassim Nicholas Taleb has an interesting thought. He said, games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who really wins or loses, but you can tell who a hero is and who is not. So when I told someone that quote, they said, well, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. And so, Gregory Bateson, the anthropologist, says when a criminal gets caught, they go, wow, I did something morally or socially wrong? Or do they go, whoops, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day. I got caught. So the bottom line question is, in regards to enemies and people who do wrong, does punishment work?
I think in some cases it does. You mean you're talking about punishment, meaning jail sentences?
Well, again, you put it in the context you want. I mean, if your kid, steals something and you got to say no cell phone for a week, or you punish him, or, if Henry Kissinger's a war criminal, what do you do with him? Throw him in a country club jail? So what does that do? I'm not saying it punishment does work or it doesn't work. I'm just asking you, in general, does punishment work?
I think the punishment has to fit the crime. And in some cases it might have to be a radical physical kind of thing, like putting someone in the clink to keep them away from society.
Yeah.
If he's a dangerous individual, or if somebody does something a little bit off the track, maybe there's simpler ways of handling it, so they could correct their wrong.
Yeah. That's funny because Dean Martin had that great joke. He said that guy went to Penn State. He says, no, he went to the state pen. I like your word, clink. He went to the clink.
The clink. Well, either place you might get an education.
Yeah. No, I asked this guy in Venice once who spent half his life in jail. I says, "Are jails just HBO, drug of your choice, and cell phones?" And he goes, "Yeah, sometimes that's all it is." So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He said, basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Because most people's lives are not as interesting as what gets conjured up for them in the movies or on stage.
Yeah.
Maybe they are, but they don't realize it. So this is like projecting a mirror on their lives.
It's good. So, what was the tipping point sort of for you, Smokey, when you go, I want to be an actor drama? I want to go into that. I want to be a musician songwriter. Where was the tipping points? Like, sort of what led to that? Did your parents take you to movies and plays and nurture that? Did they play live music around the house or you listen to it? Tell us the two tipping points for that, being an actor and being a songwriter.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I think I started making up songs when I was like really, really small or trying to. I had an instrument called an auto harp. No, I'm sorry. It was not an auto harp. It was a zither. It looked like an auto harp, but it didn't have the buttons, and it was the most frustrating thing on earth because I would just pluck the strings or do that to the strings, and I'd start making up stuff. And then I must have been about I don't know 5 years old. Could it have been 5 or 6? And I was about to go to sleep, and I heard some noise coming from the other room. And my mom was ironing some clothes, and there was a black and white television with Ed Sullivan on, and it was Elvis Presley, and he was shaking it up, and everybody was screaming, and it registered in my head. I'm going to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But when you were playing that zither, let's just go back for a second.
Mm.
What was what was your sense of music before the Elvis? Was your mom playing records or the radio around the house or singing? What was the music that you first heard and what medium were you hearing it?
Uh, well, they had records. So well, we had a record player, like one of those nice kind of nice colored brown boxes. You open the lid and you put a record in, and they had a lot of uh,
Yeah,
eh,
like a home stereo.
yeah. Well, I was before stereo.
Oh,
It
okay.
was whatever 33s and blah, blah, blah. And they played some interesting music. I mean, I remember there was some strange Broadway shows. How are things in Glockamora and all kinds of stuff. But they weren't. I mean, they liked music. My dad, when he went to school, he said they divided the classes into singers and listeners, and he was a listener. They made him a listener. They said, "No, no, you don't sing. Not in the choir, not in the chorus, nothing." But I think he liked music. I don't know. I took to it at that age, young age. And then my brother was getting born, and my parents wanted to distract me. So they got me a plastic Gene Autry guitar, and that had buttons on the fretboard, so you could play the chords. And I always wanted to be a cowboy. I used to watch Roy Rogers and all that stuff. So that really spoke to me, and I started plucking that. this is, and then a bit later on, I had this girl was like my sister. She's on the radio here, Hetty Lynn Hurdy's. She was playing guitar and piano, and I wanted to impress her, so I started playing the guitar. And then, I mean, how young are you talking about? Because then by the time I went to junior high, a friend of mine, he says, "Come here, I got this record. Listen, my brother turned me on to this. It was Bob Dylan." And then, bingo, I heard it, and I went, I think I wrote that stuff, or it was a weird subconscious thought. It was like I'd connected with Elvis, and now I'm connected with Bob, and somehow I felt like there was my destiny, even though I was planning to go to medical school and be a brain surgeon or some such thing. But at that point, I got hooked, and I just kept writing songs and
Pretty heavy, yeah.
putting bands together and stuff.
That's pretty heavy. We've gone over this history a lot, and you've covered it. But a couple other questions is: a screenwriting teacher told me a great film or a great song, great art, is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great film is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing a song?
I like to have a meaning, have some story behind it.
Yeah.
That people can either see it really clearly or try to kind of get the pictures and relate to it in some way.
That's good. And Duchamp, the artist, said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your listener when you're writing your song?
Well, it depends on the song. Some of them I just want to do it for myself, for my own satisfaction. It's like a jigsaw puzzle or something. Like, can I do this? Can I get myself in it and then make it flow and get myself out of it? And sometimes I'm thinking, boy, wouldn't people like this? And then some of them I'm thinking, maybe some people would like this, but not everybody. But as long as you find some people that like it, then it served its purpose.
Yeah. Well, two of my film heroes have these mantras: ignore yourself, there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle, and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, is songwriting more self-expression or more? I know it's both and it depends, but just jumping off point, a prompt for this thought. Is songwriting more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever culture, technologies, and environments are dominant?
I have no idea where they come from. I don't know. I mean, I can't say that I mean, I hear the stuff. So I just write it down. I don't know where,
Right.
I'm not gonna congratulate myself for it.
So you're almost leaning towards more of the vehicle, because like they asked James Brown's drummer, he invented, he's the architect for funk drumming. They says, where'd you get your sound from? He says, I was living in Ohio, and on one side of my house was a train track, and on the other side of my house was a factory. So it's like boom, tsk, boom, tsk, and so it goes on and on. The Meters. They wrote one of their coolest songs. They said their car was sputtering when they were driving to a gig, and they go, pum, they just imitated the car sound to write a song. So that's sort of like an obvious way to describe the vehicle thing. But Smokey, the really hidden question here is, can art making, songwriting be egoless?
Say that again. Can art making songwriting?
Can songwriting, like when I say art making, I'm meaning like song. Can songwriting be egoless?
Oh, I mean, to a certain extent,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, when I write a rough draft, I don't think, I don't think, I think it's pretty egoless. But then you listen to it and you go, well, that's not quite right, and then I don't know if it's ego or just sensibility. You change things to make it work.
Yeah. That's good because, see, most people have answered, can art making be egoless? They go, no. And then about a year ago, a woman said, great art is egoless. And then a month ago, a woman says, great art has to be egoless. So, it's depends a lot on how we kind of define what the word ego means, because the way Freud taught us or whatever. But what's the function of music?
Well, there's so many functions of music. It's
Well, a couple.
a dreamscape of the mind. It's elevating your spirit. It's making you move, making you be introspective, making you, I shouldn't say making you, but contributing to the happiness of your life, your emotions. If it's a friend when you don't have anybody.
I like that. I've never heard that one. That's heavy, man. It's a friend. So Copeland says the four elements of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. In layperson's terms, how would you explain what is tone color?
Tone color. Why do you ask me? I didn't say it. Ask Copeland.
You mean you want me to ask Aaron?
Ask
Well,
Aaron. Yeah. No, I mean, tone color is like, okay, so you could play a piece of music with all kinds of different instruments. I mean, if you
yeah,
play it with a saxophone, it's going to have a totally different tone color than if you play it with a vibraphone.
yeah.
Pulled out a vibraphone, or an oud or a harmonica.
Yeah.
I think there's, you got your tone colors.
Yeah.
They're like colors on a palette for an artist.
Yeah. But I mean, the four elements, how do you juggle them? When you're writing a song, is there some leaning towards one of the four: melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color? How do you juggle the four? Is it just all four? Are you more a melody person or more a rhythm person? What's your secret?
I ain't got no secret.
Okay, drop that word. What's your procedure? Like, how do you
Oh.
navigate those four elements? Like,
The way, I mean, to me, most of the stuff that comes to me is I hear the words with a melody attached. So, I just try to capture it in some way, either record it or I should be recording all of them right away, but mostly I got to write them down. So I write them down in longhand, and then I put chords, and I have a melody. Now for 30, 40 years, I remembered every melody I wrote. Now I don't. So when I look back at these things and I go, what was I thinking? I have to recreate a new melody, but the words are there.
wow. You mean even though the chords are above the words, you forgot where the melody was.
in a lot of cases. Yeah, if I because sometimes I would write them and I play them once, and then I say, well, I got to work on this, but I get another idea and then another and then another. So by the time I'm finished, I've written 10, 20 songs, rough in the rough form. And then the phone rings and I move on to something else. And then the next day is the same thing.
Yeah.
So I got a backlog of this
How,
stuff.
how many songs have you approximately written in how many years?
Look, I've been writing since I was young. I think I think by the time I don't know. I cataloged them, you know, from certain notebooks, and there's plenty more that aren't. And I've got over 7,000 entries now.
Wow, 7,000. But approximately what year, what age did you start writing your first song? Do you know that?
I think, I say, I mean, like I said, I started to play around with them when I was probably 4 or 5, but then when I would say about 12, maybe 13. I remember writing one. How does it feel to be a cutlet of veal? Na 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 na. Really stupid, but it was a brainworm, and
That's good.
and then I think by the time I went to off to university, college, or something, I'd probably written 50, 100. Now, maybe in that batch, a couple were decent.
Right.
Uh, I don't know. But then when I got to college, I mean, my freshman year, I was a little younger than other students, and and I was feeling kind of like, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. What do I want to do? And I went to a psychologist over there. He said, what do you want to do? I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. And he goes, well, what's the problem? I said, well, that's what I want to be. He says, look, the vacation's coming. He says, you want to be a writer? Write. And it went on. A light bulb went in my head. If I'm going to write, if I'm going to be a writer, I got to write. So I started to write, and I was about 17, and I never went back to the psychologist because that was my problem was solved.
You did it
I just
yourself. But did you literally start writing essays, short stories, poems, or did you say, I'm writing songs? Was it a
I
combo or an
it
emphasis?
it was a little bit of a combo, but I really got into the songs more.
Yeah.
I wrote stories, I wrote plays. Uh, I had I was plays produced, sketches for radio, and this and that. But the song thing kind of took over, and then my brain started to rhyme everything. So now
Oh,
it's like everything rhymes.
yeah.
I would like to stop it because people, unless it's a hit song or something, and you hear it over and over again, nobody really cares about rhymes that much. They like prose. But
No, Susie does. She's written a lot of songs and she thinks that they have to rhyme and it's sophisticated rhyming. It's not cheaty rhyming. But how old are you, Smokey?
oh my God, Jerry does
You don't have to answer.
no,
Okay,
I'm
so
71. I'm 71.
okay, 71. So you basically been writing songs for 60 years. Tell me one major element that stayed the same in those 60 years and one major element that's changed.
Mm. Um, I think at one point I was writing a lot of kind of mystical stuff. Uh, yeah, I was into like yeah, mystery and no, I don't mean like um, how can I say it, like sort of things about alchemy and
Okay.
dreamlike stuff, and Now I think most of it's more down to earth, realistic kind of thing. You know.
Now it's
Although,
down. Yeah.
although I mean, I always like to throw in some political stuff. You know, I mean, I wrote songs about there was a bombing in Philadelphia, or attack of people, and then there was this thing about Bitburg. Um, there were political things. They got published in Broadside. Pete Seeger heard my stuff and he sent it to Broadside magazine, and they published it. And then the public radios were playing it a lot, you know, topical stuff. And I still do some of that. I wrote one about. I found that whole case of Amber and Johnny fascinating from a human perspective.
There you go. Yeah, I saw that
And
video.
yeah, I think that you know, I told the story. It's interesting the responses to these things, because they're. I mean, I felt like I was being pretty even handed on the thing. I didn't condemn either one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a sad situation, but it held a fascination for the public, you
Yeah.
know, because many people have been in relationships that start great and end up terrible, you
Yeah.
know, but they do it on a larger scale because you know they're huge stars, or
Yeah.
he's, you know, anyway. So stuff like that, but I still try to get into emotional things,
But you sort of,
stories.
we've talked about this in the past. They asked the Brill building songwriters, what comes first, the melody or the words? And they said the phone call.
Ah,
But you sort of said there, you sort of hinted that the words and the melody, is there a leaning more you get the words first then the melody, or words and melody same time? Which what do you, is there any sort of consistency in that process of melody and words
they, they usually come out. I mean, when I'm writing the words, there's usually a melody
going at the same time
going, yeah, with a rhythm, you know. So I kind of,
with a rhythm? So you integrate all three at once. That's what you're saying.
yeah, but I mean, the rhythm is not sophisticated. I'm not a drum expert, you know,
Yeah.
but I have an idea if it's going to be fast, slow, very fast, you know, a dance thing, or you know,
Yeah.
you know, I get a lot of novelty ideas too. I like them. I mean, we used to do a song with my band. We do a whole folky set, you know, folk and folk rock and this and that. And then at the end, I tell the guys, come out back, you know, take finish the set, and we usually get an encore call, you know, so we'd all come out without our shirts and do a caveman song, you know.
That's like, you mean like Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner? Did you ever see that? The history of music? No, Spike Jones does that history of music. So what are you meaning by caveman song? What does that mean?
Okay. I live in a cave at the top of the hill. Early each morning, I go out for the kill. A saber-toothed tiger or woolly mammoth for meat. Gotta bring back something for my cave woman to eat. I got a whole-blown fire. You know it keeps me hot. My little stone wheel, that's the best thing I got. I swing my big club when the going gets rough. You know, I look mighty mean, but I'm a twice as tough. I'm going home, going home. Gonna sit down on my cave porch. Going home, going home. Going back to Old Dubai Gorge. You know,
That was brilliant. I
that's
love
the only
people who
part of
can,
it.
yeah, I love people who can answer a song by singing. Bravo, Smokey. That was brilliant. That's like, if you can't say it, sing it. And if you can't sing it, dance it.
Yeah, well, that helps me to express myself. You know, and I'm surprised that song. You know, I had people said, "Well, we can make a hit out of that." I I was working with uh God, at that time. I went up to what was it, NBC. I had a meeting with them. I said, songs like this, and I had a whole thing. I said, this could be like a mini movie,
Yeah.
you know, like a music video. And they sat there at the table and they went, it sounds like a good idea, but we don't know how to do anything like that. Why don't you go make it yourself? Make the video and bring it back to us. So, and this was before MTV,
Yeah.
it was just a few years there. It was such a, what is this? What is the possibility of this?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I think it's your Rudy. It's a lot of our boomers' roots are, we didn't realize how much American musicals influenced us. We think, oh, it was 60s rock that turned us over and made us who we were. But deep inside, our parents were playing the Great American Songbook, and we were learning blues and jazz through Gershwin and Cole Porter. But we don't think of that. My sister brought home Led Zeppelin 2, and I heard the harmonica, and my friend goes, "That's the blues." So I learned the blues backwards. I started with Led Zeppelin, went backwards. And so, but I didn't go, "Oh, well, I already heard the blues in American musicals." So I think that's a big part of it, that you mentioned the American musicals earlier, and I think that is had an influence on you.
It had some influence, but it's not what really excited me. What excited me
Right.
was the roots of the blues, Muddy Waters,
Yeah.
Howlin' Wolf,
Yeah.
Blind Willie Johnson, um, Mississippi John Hurt, and
Yeah.
with this, like, with the rock and roll, my partner and mentor was Otis Blackwell.
Yeah.
My producer. Otis wrote Elvis's biggest hits,
Yeah.
Jerry Lee Lewis' biggest hits, Peggy Lee's biggest hit, Fever.
Yeah.
He wrote Don't Be Cruel, All Shook Up, Great Balls of Fire, Handyman, James Taylor's biggest hit.
Yeah.
And the fact that Otis listened to my songs and liked them and didn't
Yeah.
want to mess with them. He just wanted to produce them. Gave me a certain confidence in the whole process, whether I'm having hits or making it or not. I know that one of the masters of American rock and roll gave me much more than the time of day.
That's a beautiful story. Yeah. Now, a friend of mine says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So technique, you've learned how to play. Theory, you know what chord it is. How does one acquire taste?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if you acquire taste or you just kind of have your taste ingrained in you from your past or your existence. Things that I find tasty, some people might find completely tasteless.
Right.
And vice versa. I have a real open mind about music or about the arts. I like to see or hear pretty much anything that's exciting and
Yeah, because
interesting.
taste implies something like a gut feeling. Most people, Smokey, answer that by going exposure or listening. That's how they acquire taste. But you sort of said maybe it's a little different than that. And there's a McLuhan line I would love for you to respond to, if you could, just any thoughts. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference?
I don't know why you would say songs are slow down speech. Songs could be sped up speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. I would say most of the lyrics in rap songs, it's so sped up. My brain doesn't absorb it.
Don't do it. But the second part of the statement is the reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment on that part?
Um, that's a good different musical. Well, they have different musical expressions based on their culture, and they also have different languages based on their culture and their existence and their ancestors' existence. So, I mean, these are long processes. You go to India, for example, and it's a very distinctive sound from American music or French music. And that's an interesting thing, too, that you have Western music, but it's not all the same. The French have a different taste. And I noticed the Germans, too. English and American, okay, there's some translation there because of the same language. There's a lot of translation there. The Beatles come here, fits right in.
Yeah.
But there's songs that are very popular in Germany, very popular. I mean, I watch a lot of these German videos where you have gigantic crowds going crazy and liking it, but that music is major hits over there. Very few of them come over here.
Yep.
We had a couple, and we had a few. I don't even know a couple of French things, but it's amazing how it goes from us to them more than from them
Yep.
to us.
Yeah, like Dominique, the singing nun song.
Right, right, right. But that was
It,
in English, wasn't it?
well, I don't know. I thought it was in French, but it's like the tuba throat singers get me because that I find that music transcendental. But then I
Well,
found
it's
out all they sing about is their boots, horses, and snow.
what else is there? I mean, you're out there. Yeah. But so far and probably forever, you won't hear one of their songs on American pop radio unless somebody does something to it.
Yeah. What's more fundamental, language or music?
Fundamental, well, music, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Music, obviously, you could enjoy it, and kind of whatever understanding you have, you could do that universally. Language, okay. I mean, you know, if if you're in with a bunch of people who speak a language you don't speak, you don't understand very much of it, if any of it.
Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
An instrumental, makes me laugh. Oh, there is one. I don't know what it is. They do that all the time, but maybe it's got some voices in it. No, an instrumental that makes me laugh. No, I don't. I can't think of any. Makes me laugh.
Okay, Smokey, Ben Ratliff, song a music writer says, I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in one single note. So, me and you could hear Miles, a note or a couple notes and go, that's Miles. we could hear Bob Dylan. We could go, that's Bob Dylan. So he used two words. He said, Miles is fragile and pointed. Coltrane is slightly undercooked and urgent. If a music writer was writing about Smokey Miles sound and you respected this music writer, what two words would you say captures the Smokey Miles?
I lost the end.
That
The Smoky Miles
this
sound.
yeah, sound. Like we go, okay, that's the Smokey Mouse sound. In a couple words, what two words would you feel that writer got you, or best describe the Smokey Mouse sound?
I would say natural and authentic.
Yeah, that's good. Miles talks about the space between notes. How do you navigate the dynamics in music?
How do you know? Well, that's taste.
Yeah. And Monk says there are no wrong notes. Any comment?
Oh, I've heard that, but you play a couple of clinkers and there are wrong notes.
Yeah. That's, Hannah Brooks, when we asked her that question, she goes, no, there's wrong notes. It's just how good you cover them up.
That's right. That's true. There's ways. Sometimes you can hit something. My son, when he was really young, we were at a party and there was some famous singers there. I think Frida Payne, and she's singing, and he picked up a harmonica, which he didn't know how to play, and he's playing, and he goes, and he pulled right out of it, and it was like, how did he do that? He made the wrongest note turn into the rightest note.
Wow. Frida Payne is actually a great jazz singer too. She had that one hit, Band of Gold. I've seen her sing Duke Ellington. She's really good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So Ruth Draper, a performance artist, said the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. That sounds good, but how do you do that? I've seen you with an audience and it's magical. How do you do that? How do you bring the audience up onto the stage with you?
I listen to them listening, and that's what I do. I focus on them listening, and if I say a false word, I can tell that they're confused. They don't like it. It's not working, and I go back to the drawing board and change it. Never do it the same again. And the other thing is sometimes they just come up. I mean, they feel compelled to come up on stage, literally. This happened to me in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, when we were performing for the families of the military people who were there. And the stage, there were 50 kids or something, jumped up on stage and started dancing and singing with me. I was playing the accordion, and I went, wow, couldn't keep them away. Didn't want to. It was exciting.
That is beautiful. Well, talk about the accordion a little. How did you go off into that realm? Because you're mainly playing guitar and writing songs, being a guitarist. That's most of your career. When you say is guitar's your main instrument?
Yeah, up till a certain point. But so I went to a summer camp when I was a kid, and I saw a kid playing the accordion. I must have been 7, something like that. Kids playing the accordion, and everybody in the camp is into it. And my mind is going like, when I go on tour, I'd want a piano, and I'd want a grand piano, not a toy piano, but like a big Steinway grand, and they're they're really too big to schlep around. Look at this accordion; it's portable, and he's got everybody into it. I'm going to play the accordion. So I said to my parents, I want to play the accordion. They said, that's not a real instrument. They said, you got to learn the piano. I said, we don't have a piano. They said, all right, we'll get you an accordion. You take a few accordion lessons and then someday learn the piano. So I took a few accordion lessons and I, got into the guitar. But then years later, I put together some country band. I said, like Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys and some of the other ones, I believe they had accordions. I'm going to use that, and it's going to be unique. So then I started doing it. And then later on, years later, when I started doing the Count Smokey show, I thought, oh, this would be a really wacky instrument for a vampire to play. At the end of the show, we'll do the Dance of Joy from Smoke Sylvania. And so I'd pull out the accordion. And the next thing was, people go, you play accordion? You play French music? I go, yeah, sure. You play German music? Yeah, sure. And I learn it, And then what else? Russian and Irish and whatever, And so there aren't that many accordion players. And so I get hired a lot to play the accordion. I
That's
do all
good.
the Oktoberfests and French gigs, Italian gigs. I love it.
It's an amazing instrument. Yeah.
It's a challenge to me,
Yeah. Beautiful instrument. Love it. Smokey, what do you think the motive of the cave artist was? Meaning cave music, cave dance. The only one we got really documented is cave art. What's your hunch or guess? What was their motive?
Curiosity versus boredom. I mean, you're sitting in a cave. You might as well make a picture of the animal you just killed or you want to kill.
Yeah.
Did they make music? That's good. What was cave music like? It's probably kind of like, early rock and roll.
It was.
Take some bones and bang them,
Bo Diddley.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
what's more important, conviction or compromise?
I'll say conviction. I mean, if you're convicted, you're in trouble. But if you're compromised, you got to compromise sometimes. But if everything is compromising, you're kind of lost in the soup, lost in the soup. So you gotta balance it. Move on. That question too complicated for me.
You've accomplished a lot, Smokey. In your accomplishments overall, how do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
I think skill is the most important thing, and then luck. Ambition, I don't know. Whenever I've been ambitious about something, it blows up in my face. And when I'm not, things seem to roll along.
Wow. A poet said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
English.
What it's metaphorically, what form is your
Oh,
inner consciousness in?
well, it goes up and down my chakras depending on my level of evolution at the moment. I mean, I'm basically trying to evolve slowly, but sometimes I go down and have kind of lower, stupider thoughts, and then sometimes it's like I'll be thinking on a nice global scale, about saving the animals and the plants and having a wonderful earth. And other times it's just like Let me see what I can come up with for a chuckle.
It's good. Frank Zappa said stupidity is the building block of the universe. It could be, oxygen they say is, but he said stupidity, and in that, if you don't know something, how do you flip it into knowing? And Moshe Feldenkrais says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
I mean my playing. I remember when I was playing with first professional band in New York City when I was young. My rhythm, I think, was a little sketchy, and then I decided to become a damn good rhythm player, and I think I'm pretty good at that.
That you switch that, you use that breakdown into a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're learning. You get better at whatever you're doing if you want to get better.
Is perception reality?
No, not necessarily.
Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Yeah.
Name
Yeah.
one.
That that you don't die. You know.
Oh, that's amazing. You anticipated my question. Can you forget to die?
Well, you can find it to be an unpleasant reality for various reasons. I mean, the sense of, for me, the whole thing is, well, I got a lot of things I want to do, and if it all stops, I think I would feel frustrated beyond the grave. Maybe not feel anything. The other thing is the whole sense of like what happens when you die. It makes me very claustrophobic, or horrifying. I mean, I don't know if the body feels after you die, if they
Right.
bury you or burn you or whatever. I mean, then I'll have to assume that you don't know nothing. You don't know what's going on. But a part of me believes the impossibility that it keeps going on, and I'm feeling those sensations, which
Dude,
I don't like.
well, your YouTube's channel will live on after you die, and people will be watching Smokey Miles. But why, American Indians, indigenous Eastern culture respect their elders. Can you explain Western culture's disdain for old age?
Can I explain? Yeah, because it's a disposable culture, and
Yeah.
it's based on youth, and especially California or LA culture. It's just that's the way. Now, my brother was in the Peace Corps in Africa. And my dad went to visit him. My dad had lost his job because of age discrimination. He had a lawsuit that he couldn't win. He said that's the hardest lawsuit to win. And he had a top lawyer, and there was proof that was going on. But when he went to Africa, he said they treated him like, like a respected, venerable elder. He had white hair.
Wow.
And he says this is a whole different level of treatment of people.
It's beautiful.
Mm.
Fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
Did you freeze or oh?
Yeah, the fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
When you use that to create.
Yeah. Utah Phillips said, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Well, everybody's entitled to make the rules of how they want to live, as long as they're not breaking the law and getting themselves in trouble. Now, if they need to break the law and get themselves in trouble for an altruistic reason, okay, that could happen.
What's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Uh, rights are things you can do, and responsibilities are things you ought to do.
Yeah, it's good. What's the most significant difference between women and men, physical aside?
Oh, I think women control the whole scene through their intuition, and they're sort of like they have invisible tentacles. They know things we don't know.
There's a cliche, Smokey goes, women know, men suppose.
Okay, you said it better than I did.
Well, no, I'm just saying that's a cliche. I didn't say it.
Oh,
I'm just repeating cliches.
I don't know if that's a cliche. That may have some truth to it. Maybe
Well,
a lot of cliches too.
well, that's why McLuhan wrote a book, From Cliche to Archetype. I mean, here's another one. It gets you in trouble, but the word mafia starts with the letters M-A, ma. And
Mm.
that's because, and I'm not saying it's true, this is just a theory, because women run the world, but they let men think they run the world.
It makes sense to me.
Okay, there's a line that goes like this, Smokey. You create what you resist. The comedian Bob Goldthwait morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion that you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So, any thoughts on this idea? You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Smokey, like one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that idea?
I think one resists what's been created for one.
There you go. You flipped it. It's
Hmm.
good. How do you find peace of mind?
Well, you go to Umberto's, a pizza place, and you say, "Give me a pizza, mine." Peace of
Make me
mind.
one. Yeah, like the guy,
Make me
the
one with everything.
yeah, make me one with everything.
Peace of mind. You know, I mean, frankly, I think it's by telling the truth. You tell the
Wow.
truth, yeah. You tell the truth, your mind will be pretty peaceful.
Okay, well, that's perfect lead into this. Back to Louis Buñuel, he says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. 90% of people hear that quote by Louis and they go, that's right. And one guy finally said, that's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. And the cliche goes, the journey's more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or seek a destination if the journey's more important?
Oh. Well, some guy thinks the journey's more important. I think the journey's important. People are looking for a destination, like some form of goal. But, when people get it and seize on it and say they have the answer, they're right and you're wrong, a lot of times that leads to a situation of autocracy, or anti democracy, something like that.
Yeah.
The word I'm looking at, authoritarianism,
Authoritarianism. Yeah.
which I do not like.
Well, that's my favorite bumper sticker is question authority, but not your mother.
Oh, right. Well, that makes sense. Took me a long time to realize that.
If you were, we got about 10 more minutes. Thanks so much, Smokey. This has been fun. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Go to medical school.
Yeah, but come on. You think you'd have had more fun and a better life? You've had a good life, wouldn't you say?
You know, in some ways, yeah. In some ways, it's been hellacious. I don't know. I can't get into anybody else's head, but I have friends. They became doctors. Now they're retiring and they're going to pick up their boats, that are being made for them. And I'm going, well, maybe it wasn't so bad to spend, 40 years dealing with sick people. And then if you still have life in you, you get a house, another house, a boat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been trying to stay alive this whole time, and it's not an easy path being an
Yeah.
artist. You know that.
Yep. Well, here's 5 Alan Watts questions just off the top of your head in a few words. 1. Who started it all?
It all. Probably Leonardo da Vinci.
That's a good answer. Our second, are we going to make it?
We'll make it in some way.
3, where do we put it?
In the bank. In the bank. No,
In the bank.
Where do we put it? Yeah, anywhere we like. I don't know.
4, who's cleaning it up?
That's nobody is.
That's it. 5th, is it serious?
Very serious.
Wow. Which way that's good on the Alan Watts. Now a few more and we're out of here. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll? Over or under?
Oh no. Are you referencing the latest scientific survey?
No, tell me it. I don't know about it.
Oh, there's been a study on it that the more successful people put the toilet paper over than the people who put it under.
That's amazing because the patent is 100 years old and it shows it going over. 80-90% of people I ask this question say over, but the people who say under have their reasons.
I always liked it under. And then when I read that survey, I went, well, if I put it over, I'll probably make some more money. So I put it over, but old habits die hard. I liked it under.
There you go.
Whoa.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the
Yes.
top of your head, what would the title be?
Smokey.
They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Sandalwood.
If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Oh my God. Let's see. What's that? What did Michelangelo? Marble.
And where would you want it displayed?
Where would I want it displayed? on top of the Empire State Building.
Way to go, Smokey. I was gonna say he's gonna say the Mar Vista Farmers Market, but he went right for the top. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Oh, an elephant.
That's a good answer. If
Yeah.
you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Oh God. Can I get out of it? I'd get,
You're asking me? I
I'm,
just
I'm
asked
trying. I'm just trying to get out of it. That's it.
you get out of it. That's a good answer, to get out of it. No, you know my favorite answer. Well, I have two favorite answers, but one of them was I wouldn't be in a situation like that.
Hopefully, right.
What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Hmm. The cultural shift that inspires me. Hmm. I mean, the shift is already, the revolution has happened. It's like they had the Industrial Revolution. We've had the information revolution. Does it inspire me? In some ways, yes. As a Gemini, I like information. I like knowledge. I like to, which is why the cell phone, I'm a phony. I mean, I'm addicted to this thing.
Yeah,
You get any information you want.
yeah,
Your second brain is Mr. Google. You
yeah,
know, who won the World Series in 1953?
duh.
Ask Mr. Google.
It's good.
People would argue about this for days, weeks, and they'd have to go to libraries. Now pretty much anything is right in your little paws, your little iPhone or Android.
Pretty amazing. So, what's the function of laughter?
To make life tolerable. Tolerable,
It's beautiful. Gurdjieff said the function of laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no. But McLuhan loved to quote Steve Allen. He said, behind every joke, there's a grievance. I don't know about every, but what's your thoughts on this? Behind every joke, there's a grievance.
Behind every good joke, probably pointed joke, acerbic joke. Sure.
Yeah.
You take the great comedians and they have a point to these things. It's not just saying dumb things.
Who's your three favorite, who influenced you the most with your good sense of humor you got?
Um, hmm. Well, I like the Marx Brothers. And I mean, from the past or now?
Any era, but Marx Brothers, let's stay on that for a second, because they were revived in your college days, or did you actually watch them when you were a little kid?
Oh yeah, I'd watch them as a little kid, on TV and all that.
On TV, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
any era. Yeah, a couple other comic influences.
I mean, Lucille Ball was fantastic. Lucy,
That's pretty good.
and Red Fox, unbelievable.
Wow.
Red Fox, Sanford and Son.
That is good.
Yeah.
So,
and Jackie Mason.
Oh, I love Jackie Mason.
Amazing. Yeah.
Very good. So, Bob Dylan, you worked with him. He just put out an amazing book. He was in the Wall Street Journal last week praising Frank Zappa. Did you know that? He praised Frank Zappa in the Wall Street Journal last week. It's unbelievable.
Why is that unbelievable? I mean, I think one
Well,
genius
it's
recognizes another.
no, it's good that he did. I'm happy, but if you study the history of both of them, like I have for 50 years, I'm well aware of the times that uh, Frank has mentioned Bob, and then they
Hmm.
had an encounter, and it was because Bob went to Frank's house in '82, and then Bob never really documented any sayings of anything about Frank. He might have said it to people, but it wasn't documented as far as I know. In after he visited Frank in '82, he put a thank you in one of his albums, and it was a whole list of people he thanked, and Frank's name was listed there. And I asked Frank, I says, "Why did Bob thank you?" And he goes, "I don't know. I probably helped him pick his religious preference, because when Bob was at Frank's house, Frank's dog barked at Bob, and Frank said, 'Don't worry, he only barks at Christians.'" But could you imagine sitting there in a room and watching Bob Dylan play 8 songs on the piano for Frank and say, "Will you produce me?" I mean, that would have been a really heavy scene.
Did
It
that
happened.
happen?
It
That
happened.
happened?
It happened. It's the
Oh,
album.
nice, nice.
It's the album that Mark Knopfler produced.
Huh.
Just around 82, 83, whatever that album is. Yeah.
Huh.
But here's what Bob said recently. He said it in this new book. In a real sense, the only thing that truly unites us is suffering, and suffering alone. No, and suffering only. We all know loss, whether we're rich or poor. It's like, come on, give me a break. You're fucking a gazillionaire. You're suffering. You've had an amazing life. But that's the Buddhas and the Eastern philosophy have said life is suffering. What's your take on this line, especially you knowing Bob? The only thing that truly unites us is suffering. Any thoughts on that line, and why would Bob say that?
Um, because I think he's suffered loss too. I mean, I think you know, not everything is what it appears to be,
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's the only thing that unites us, but it may be the deepest thing.
yeah. But go back to your mom and her persistence to live. Wouldn't you say that's accent the positive? Does she have a positive attitude and that's what's keeping her alive? Or is she going, woe is me?
Positive attitude. I mean,
Yeah,
there's times when she has said she wants to hang it up. That's done, and we convince her not to. Because
yeah,
she's sharp mentally, so why not enjoy it?
yeah. Okay, 2 more and we're out of here, Smokey. What a pleasure. Thornton Wilder said this in 28. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
What art? You mean making art?
Put it in the context you want. It could be making art, life, whatever. Any context you want.
I'm just hoping something that I think or that I feel connects with other people. They either enjoy it or it enlightens them or it makes their day go by better.
Yeah. It's good. What gives you the most optimism?
The fact that I can create anything.
Yeah. No limits.
Well, we've all got our limits, but within my limited capabilities, I try to do some good stuff.
Yeah, the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe I'm a Balinese.
Well, it's funny because the first question I asked, what's the best thing for a human being? You said love. Wilhelm Reich says other people,
Hmm.
another human being. At the end of his life, they asked Groucho Marx, what gives you the most optimism? He says other people.
Hmm.
So, that's what you said. Your hope is to connect with others, you know.
Yeah, it's some form of gift that or an ability that I've taught myself to be able to channel what's coming in and put it in some form that I can share with other people.
Yeah.
And without that, it's just too internal. It makes you feel like you're living in a solitary room or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about sharing, man. So I appreciate you sharing your time with us today, Smokey.
Oh, thank you for having me, Jerry. It's been fascinating.
Really fun. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we keep talking forever and ever.
Absolutely. Forever and ever.
Later, sucker.